Our next speaker is Kate. She is from the Brisbane office, because all the best people come from Queensland, a managing partner with Synergy. Kate has only recently joined Synergy, having previously worked at EY, IBM, and as the Chief Financial Officer for the Endeavour Foundation. You just need to give us a minute while we get Kate's slides up.
Thank you so much. I'll just clarify, Chief Information Officer, you wouldn't trust me with your financial records. Good morning, and thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak with you this morning. This is a fairly important, as we've just noted, and somewhat topical conversation, I think, at the moment. And it's really important. It goes to the heart of how we think about our collective readiness and effectiveness in defence. Now, I'd just like to caveat today with, yes, I've got a background in information technology and also people leadership. I've never been a member of the ADF, but I have had the pleasure of consulting to the ADF in the past. So this very much comes from my perspective as 20 years in people leadership and workforce planning for organisations, both my own and my clients. Okay, but before I begin, but I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on today, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung and the Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation. And I really like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and their emerging leaders. And I've had the real privilege of working with First Nations people over quite a few years, both Torres Strait Islander and Aboriginal. And I have to say that I have learned so much from working with them. Their unique lived experience and culture means they bring really different insights and ways of working to the table, and particularly their ability to deal in incredibly complex systems. So I'm very grateful to the capability and experience that those people have been able to share with me. So, going to our question today of does diversity still matter in 2025? Spoiler alert, while defence is evolving rapidly, yes, it is still absolutely critical, but not as a moral imperative. It is very much as a strategic imperative. And I think this is really the important message that we need to get through, because when we encounter that pushback, we need to recognise the importance of this, that we really are trying to build strategic capability. So from the outset, it is not about fairness. Now, it corresponds with my sense of fairness, but it really isn't about fairness. It's about capability and, critically, access to the workforce we need. We are really a small country. We are really running up against things in terms of our workforce, and we really need to think differently about how we obtain the workforce of the future. Thank you. No, all good. Fabulous. Thank you. So we've talked a bit about some of the data today. Companies in the top quartile for gender diversity, 15% more likely to have financial returns above industry average. Diverse executive teams, 25% more likely to generate greater profits. Harvard found that teams with diversity are 70% more likely to capture new markets, and companies with above average diversity in leadership generate 45% more of their revenue from innovation. I think, there is a lot of data in this space, but I think they're really interesting ones. I think the innovation data is particularly interesting. Thanks, Kylie. So, teams with diversity make better business decisions 80% of the time and twice as fast. These are really important things for us to understand when we're talking about a rapidly evolving defence environment. Some of the findings also relate to our younger folk and our emerging leaders of tomorrow. 83% of millennials are actively engaged in DE&I and see the value of it. This is our future workforce. It's so important. But whilst the evidence is clear, it's critical that we understand the importance of diversity in addition to joy and celebration. So when I was the people leader for EY, I had about 12,000 people in my remit, and we had a really unfortunate event. As a result, we decided to bring in Elizabeth Broderick, who you might know as the former Human Rights Commissioner. She, and Sex Discrimination Commissioner, she came in with her team to do a deep culture review of that organisation, of those 12,000 staff, and anyone who'd worked for the organisation in the prior 5 years. It was the largest data set on culture publicly available to date. I highly recommend it as a read. The thing that I did struggle with the report, though, was it was very powerful, but one of the key messages in the report was that diversity is to be celebrated. Now, I love a good celebration, and I know that celebrating things together means we learn more about each other, we break down barriers. That's really important, and I love International Women's Day to celebrate. But what's really important as we try to push forward into a space where some people are uncomfortable is that diversity is a strength. We need to reframe it. I love the celebration. I'll never take the celebration away, but it is absolutely a strength, and we really should focus in on what it can actually do for the organisations that hold it. Right. Thank you. So really, it's all about capability. Diversity brings a variety of capability, and in our context, otherwise inaccessible to us for the very reasons that we've just talked about. So diversity in defence is not primarily about fairness. There is a fairness element, there's no doubt. But it's about capability, strength and operational readiness. The strategic environment facing today's military is complex. I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but clearly threats are shifting rapidly. Operational theatres are unpredictable, and partners and adversaries alike represent the rich tapestry of backgrounds, language and cultures. And to respond effectively, Defence must marshal the full insight, flexibility and resilience available through our complete society. Thanks, mate. So it's an interesting time for such discussions around the world, including our friends in the United States, and we're seeing nations taking different paths on diversity. I think many of us have found ourselves looking at the recent changes in the US Defence Force with a mix of disbelief and concern, to be honest, in relation to their D&I initiatives as they shift towards meritocracy. That is a long conversation for another day, but suffice to say we all have a very subjective view of merit. But I think we need to understand that the risks of this move are not insignificant. Now, I appreciate that each country must make its own decisions, but when you strip out the politics and look at the operational evidence, the realities of modern defence and multinational operations, the benefits of diversity are self-evident. For a military force to be credible and interoperable with allies and effective in sensitive engagements with local communities, it really must reflect a diversity of perspectives, backgrounds and lived experiences. It's not just a nice to have, it's integral to operational readiness and mission success. Thank you, my friend. So, the evidence is in, and we've heard it from Kylie this morning. There are so many pieces of evidence, you really have to choose the most heavy hitting. But research and real world experience, including operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, show time and again that diverse teams, can make better decisions, innovate more quickly and adapt more easily to fast changing challenges. My understanding is that when Australian female soldiers worked in female engagement teams, gaining access to local Afghan women, they really provided coalition forces with information and situational awareness that were otherwise inaccessible, directly strengthening operational effectiveness. Thank you, my friend. So we know that diversity enhances military capability. We know that it fosters innovation and it creates better risk management. The more perspectives you put around any risk, the more insights and opportunities you will have for creative solutions. Access to new talent pools, as we said, we're really up against it in this country. In my former role, I was using a fabulous program called Talent Beyond Borders, which was a program to identify key skill sets in refugee camps and actually relocate people to Australia. And I had the great privilege of being able to do that and really harness some fabulous talent for the organisation. We know that diversity is a strategic asset for defence, and it's going to strengthen international engagement. That example of Afghanistan is where you're working within a community, but we have to interoperate with foreign forces as well. So worldwide, diversity is recognised as a critical strategic asset and beyond those political concerns. So when you strip out the politics and you look at the operational evidence, the realities of modern defence and multinational operations, the benefits of diversity are self-evident. For a military force to be credible and interoperable with allies and effective in sensitive engagements with local communities, it must reflect the diversity of perspectives, backgrounds and lived experience. It's not a nice to have, it's integral. It's a short presentation this morning. I know that it's very much about the data, but it really is about the difficulty, I imagine, that a lot of women are experiencing. One of the things that we understand about diversity is that critical mass is essential. What we see with the American move to take away the DE&I programs is problematic. It's problematic for them because politics change. The evidence doesn't and hasn't. And the reality is that the next political shift that comes in America, the build is very slow. As those of you who are representing diversity within the Defence Force, you know it's not always easy. And I'm very concerned that whenever you have to start that from ground zero, it is so hard for the first entrants into that space. Australia has developed a good beachhead. It is moving quickly, it needs to move quickly. It's a really imperative thing that we achieve for capability and operational readiness, but I'm very conscious of the impact on those that have to step into the ring first. So, I encourage you all to remember, it's not about being fair to you as individuals or any of your colleagues or peers. It's absolutely about getting the right Defence Force for Australia with the right capabilities and skills at the right scale. And I think that America's going to find that if they do have a shift in politics in the future, regrowing back into that diverse workforce that they're going to need to really compete and defend America is going to be a big challenge for them in a long haul. So I do want to celebrate the diversity we have today. I do want to acknowledge that it's not easy, but it's absolutely evidence-based. It's critical, and I encourage you to keep going with it, and I thank you so much for your time this morning.
Might be questions.
There might be questions.
Do we have any questions? Oh, Susan.
No, Maria's going to go first.
So, come on, Maria.
One of the questions that I always been asked for is how we don't seem like we are taking the workplace from Australians. Okay, because this is one thing. Okay, with some people believe that the technical skills and other skills that we bring from overseas are taking, the places for Australia.
Yes. Yeah, that should be our job.
So
yeah.
exactly, and we don't want it to be seen like that. Okay?
Of course.
So what will be the best response for that? Because I have to admit, I don't, but I don't know how to respond much better. So I would like to see your point of view. How would you respond to a question like that?
I can only imagine what it must be like to be on the end of those sorts of comments. I think that the only reason that you are working and successful is we need your capabilities. So the message I would have is, look, it would be wonderful if Australia could do all of this on their own, but the reality is you need the skills and capabilities from overseas. And by the way, we know that diversity of experience, lived experience, not just your technical skills, but the challenges you've experienced in your life, the way that you've navigated your world, the way your culture informs the way you think, all of those things add to your technical skill set. So you're bringing your technical skill set to the table where there is a very deep shortage in the market, and then you are also bringing that additional value through your unique insights and lived experience. So I'd say Australia needs me, quite clearly.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
You invited me here.
Yes.
That's the big thing. And I think I'm a seventh generation Australian, and I have a unique advantage in that I was born here, and that's a big privilege. But I think we need to have more respect for the people that choose to come here. We invited you to come, and you came with open arms to our country, and we need to embrace that. We need to support people like you.
Yeah, we can't say it's not good for us.
No.
You know, I'm from Brisbane, and when I was younger, when Expo was the thing, that's how old I am, we were WASP. You know, we were white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, and there were very rarely saw First Nations people who have large populations. And it was incredibly boring. And since we have, you know, I think the international colleges.
Brisbane.
Yeah, we woke up. It took us a little while to have breakfast, but I do think that we've definitely seen with the opening of the international colleges, many more Colombian people. I have quite a few Colombian friends now. You know, we see a lot of Japanese people from all over the world, and it's been really fabulous for our state and for Brisbane. Really, definitely, economically, and just the vibe is a lot better, Your Honour. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Susan.
Kate, the point you made on critical mass is so vital for companies to understand it. And I just want to share a piece of data, if I may. Research that I found super interesting, and it relates really to women in leadership type positions. So women feel when they are in a leadership type or decision making community, group, forum, board, whatever it might be, whatever the group is, if the representation of women is less than 50%, the women in that group will feel that they don't have a sense of power.
Absolutely.
It's only when the representation is 50% or more that women feel they have a sense of power strong enough that their contribution is considered useful. So when women look at leadership committees, decision-making groups that are less than 50% female representation, because they have this sense that their power's not going to be valued, they steer clear. It doesn't draw them to those communities or groups, it pushes them away. So think about that on the organisational level as well.
100%. And certainly in my experience, you know, working in executive and on boards at EY, you know, I was very proud when I was there. We managed to achieve a 50% gender split on the board. That was a very narrow view of diversity, but it was certainly there. But I can say as a lived experience that correlates exactly with my experience. Thank you for that evidence.
And our first time ever national cabinet is 50% women.
Booyah to that.
Yeah, that's got to be actually pretty rare across the planet.
Yeah.
So we're getting there.
We can do it.
Yeah, but that's just the female perspective. As we said, there's more to diversity than just.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that research I need.
Yeah.
But it is value, but it talks about the issue of critical mass. If you're on your own, and then you also become the person that everybody hits up for questions about your particular group, and what about intersectionality and all of these issues. So we're starting with the basics, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it's also really important in the organisation for people to see that it's not a competition. Because in some places, I do find because women are a minority in their group, they think that there's only place for one woman in this group. So then, if there's multiple women there, there could be sometimes happens that they are, instead of like propping, they say we both could be in there, or we all could be in there, that we're all fighting for that one spot because we think there is one spot, and that we open up all the other spots only for men instead of trying to make that a diverse place. And I think that kind of like thinking where we've always struggled to find a spot, we need to like change the mentality of like, I can have a spot, but you can have a spot too. We could all go in there. And in that sense, is very important in that diversity aspect.
I think that's right, my friend. And how do we support and pull other women through, or other people that might reflect the diversity that we need in our business? And I do think it's interesting. I forget who it was that said, you know, when you take someone who's highly privileged and you ask them to share, they immediately feel disenfranchised, you know, as unreasonable as that is. But there is more than enough room for us all. As we've evidenced, there's definitely a requirement for more capability. I do think that sense of pulling each other through, lifting each other up, and working with our other colleagues to remember that there are men in our leadership groups that also reflect diversity that we might not see, obviously. So we've all just got to really think about how do we make sure we build diverse teams. because you have any team that is monoculture, you are going to have singular responses to risk, singular responses to opportunity more likely. So the diversity piece is just so critical. So I just want us all to remember we're doing it for very, very tangible outcomes as well as the fairness dividend that it brings.
And change is slow. We're fighting, as Susan and I were talking about yesterday afternoon, over 2,000 years worth of history where diversity was not important. And it's really only, I'd say, I don't know, maybe our parents, we're about the same age, I remember Expo too, in our mothers' generations, that things have started to change. Like not only ethnically, like when we had the mass migration following World War II of Italian, Greek, and then later Vietnamese migrants into Australia, when women no longer had to reside when they got married. That's only happened in our parents' generation. So we have come a long way in the last 60 odd years when you look at 2,000 years worth of history. So we are getting there. If you look
it's okay to be impatient.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay to be impatient and want change to happen faster. But we are fighting 2,000 years worth of history, 2,000 years worth of a monoculture that we need to overcome. So we can even look back at ancient Greek cultures or ancient Chinese cultures where people that were not Chinese or not Greek or not Roman were also not valued in those societies. So we have a lot of history that we're fighting against, not just women ethnically the whole way through. But we have come a long way. We need to be proud of how far we've come, but we need to aim higher.
And not go backwards.
We're not going backwards.
I'm not going backwards. Well, we won't talk about America. We'll talk about Australia and keep on going. Yeah.
Just one last question. You mentioned critical mass, which is a really big theme in the UK at the moment around gender diversity. In the UK, there's a big push for male allies in this space. How do we, I suppose, increase the number of males that attend?
Champions of change.
Yeah. So the Champions of Change Forum is a really great one, and I'm very fortunate to be joined by our CEO Rob today, who's a bloke, and our Brigadier McMahon, so it's lovely to have some of our colleagues here. I think we have to be clear in our arguments for those allies to understand the value to them and their careers of actually taking this agenda forward. We do need their help. The reality is those who hold the keys are the ones that can make the biggest difference the fastest, and it is impressive to see the speed at which the ADF is moving at the moment. But I also understand that causes friction and concern because we're still having to move with people's attitudes. But bringing people into the tent, acknowledging their ability to make impact is something that often appeals to people. So to be able to say you could actually make a difference here as an ally is a really, I believe that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, and I am focused on the outcome, and so the ability to sit with men and acknowledge that they can make a big difference, I think, is a more positive way of engaging them than perhaps some of the rhetoric that goes to criticism. I'm not sure that really necessarily takes us where we need to go.
And I've got to do a big plug. Watch this space. Champions of Change is going to be a theme of one of these events next year.
Fantastic.
Okay. Any more questions from the audience? Oh, yep. Helen.
I think mine is a bit more of a sort of personal reflection on your own career, and to the point of, I guess, women or greater diversity groups being reluctant to step forward and go for the position or join a board or pursue those sorts of avenues. Looking back, what, I guess, guides or advice would you give someone younger in their career in kind of looking towards those decisions or moving in that space?
Have courage, and leadership requires courage. So, if you're going to step up, it is because you're brave. I think our wonderful first speaker really captured that mentoring. Talk to people who've been there, seek guidance, coaching from those around you. There are really amazing, successful professional networks that you can tap into. Always ask yourself why you want something, I think is really, really important. So I think, part of the dominant culture is that leadership is the goal and everybody wants to be the most important person in an organisation. And I often challenge that that's right for everyone. So I think understand why you're going for it, find the right network of supportees, mentors, lived experience, spend time with them, take their guidance, and just keep showing up. You know, I remember I used to joke with my staff that I stopped wearing mascara to work because it ended up a bit messy on a regular basis. It was pretty scary sometimes, and sometimes walking into a room full of, senior businessmen, and you're the only woman in the room and they're not in the mood, is pretty confronting. I mean, I know I'm talking to service people here, you're a lot more courageous than me, but for me that was really quite difficult. Just keep turning up. You will get it wrong, it will be tough, you will run into people who aren't fond of the idea that you're there, but if you just keep showing up, you know, I find that that's the way through. The obstacle is the way, as our Stoic friends would say.
And just like a bit of interaction, how many of you have been like the only woman in the room, or the only person of colour in the room, or the only person not born in Australia in the room? Just hands up in the room, right? Everybody in this room has been in that situation. So you are not on your own. There are other people out there who get it. Find somebody, talk to them. We've all been there and done that.
Stronger together.
Stronger together. Yeah, that's stealing Aidan's motto, but okay.
There you go. I'm known for a bit of play.
So, any more questions?
Sorry,
Yes.
just a perspective, something that we were doing in the UK is actually sharing our experiences through training. So I used to work for Rolls-Royce, and we did a really big piece around women in the industry. STEM was a small amount of women. I was the only female in my team, but actually what we found through training and discussions, and it requires being open, I suppose, as a female in a male-dominated environment, is sharing my experience of saying, like, when I was a graduate, I was the only female in the room, and at the time, that scared me. And I shared that with, like, my manager, who again was male, and his boss was male, and they'd never considered it. They'd never considered that I was the only female in the room quite often, or a lot of our customers were male, and that was something that scared me when I started off in my career. But they only realised from me sharing my experience, and so we developed some training through the Gender Diversity Network, and I suppose that's the only way that we gained male allies within the company.
Yeah.
But it took quite a lot of, I suppose, confidence from women sharing their experiences, and actually, I suppose, the support from the company to roll that out.
Absolutely.
So I suppose it's twofold, but it's something that really helped us. It'd be great to see more male allies at this event. So
it's a really brave thing to do, and it does require you to be very vulnerable. But if you've got the right leadership and support, it's great to do. And I agree. The reality is that we can throw a lot of data up on screens, but it's the stories that actually help people best understand and navigate. So I think that's, a really fabulous program, and something I'd highly recommend. One of the things that I used to run for EY was the cultural mentoring program. So we would partner people with more junior staff from more diverse backgrounds to spend time together and have those conversations personally, and that was quite a powerful program in itself as well. Thank you. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, everyone.